Welcome to the Skull King Football Podcast, presented by Voks DFS Firelines. Now, here are your hosts, Justin and Ryan Skullrood.
Hello and welcome to the Skull King Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host today, Ryan Skullrood, doing a solo show again today. We've got a great show planned out for you guys today. We've got some news and notes, a little start-sit advice. We actually have a bigger section of DFS today. What we've got going on is we actually have the owner of our main sponsor of this show, Brad Holda, owner of Voks DFS. He actually hops on the line and he and I do a little back and forth on some players to look at for Yahoo DFS this week, as well as kind of getting into how he got started with going with Voks DFS, getting the company started and just kind of what they offer, so our listeners can get a little bit better idea of what they're getting into when they join a group like Voks DFS Firelines, and how it can help them with their fantasy lineups. So let's go ahead and since it's just me today, let's go ahead and get into our news and notes. Starting it off, latest reports, ESPN Seahawks reporter Shell Capadia believes that it is likely Richard Sherman will shadow Julio Jones this week. That isn't really much of a surprise. They had a couple weeks ago in New York, Sherman was shadowing Brandon Marshall. I think that this could turn out to be a really good matchup. Sherman, in the past, before last year was, he'd stay to one side of the field. And last year, after who their new defensive coordinator is, starting last year, he would shadow receivers. I want to say that he actually shadowed Antonio Brown and held him to, under 50 yards. So, I think that this will be a good matchup. I could see who, if you've got Julio, you're going to start him, period. You start him either way. If you've got the Seahawks defense, yes, they're going up against the number one offense, but I still think you start both either way. There are a lot of Sherman haters out there. I believe that he could have a good game. It really what this game is going to depend on for the Seahawks defense is, can the defensive line, who's one of the top run stoppers, can they keep Coleman and Freeman in check? And two, can they get any pressure on Matt Ryan? If they can do that, well, then it doesn't matter if Sherman's covering Julio. If they can get constant pressure on Matt Ryan, it's not going to matter. He's not going to be able to get the ball out. And so really I think that battle right there is all going to come down to what the defensive line can do, because the defensive line can't get any pressure on Matt Ryan. Receivers are always going to get open. It doesn't matter who you're going up against, who the DB is. Receivers are going to get open if they're given enough time. So, going to tonight's Thursday game, quarterback Trevor Siemian will start tonight versus the Chargers after missing Sunday's game versus the Falcons with a shoulder injury. I think this plays out well for both Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and very well could help out C.J. Anderson as well. They're playing, I want to say they're playing in San Diego tonight. Quick look. Yes, it's in San Diego. The Chargers really have no defense, especially now that their starting corner, Verrett, is out for the season with the torn ACL. So I think that the Broncos should walk all over San Diego's defense. Now, in terms of fantasy purposes, we don't really care who wins the game. Honestly, in my opinion, it's a matter of who gets the points, who's getting the yards. So I think having Simeon in there will be better for Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. From what I've seen, there are a couple fantasy sites really plugging that this is going to be a big game for Demaryius. I actually went over, I don't know if it was in this, if I actually mentioned it on one of the podcasts, but I've seen a couple splits where Emmanuel Sanders tends to score more points when they're on the road than he does when they're at home. So, that's something to think about. I do think that they will probably, especially if San Diego can run the ball against the Denver Broncos, which teams have been able to run the ball against the Broncos lately. Melvin Gordon may have a good game because of that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But with Simeon in there, I'm good to start, Emmanuel Sanders as a wide receiver 2 or 3 and Demaryius Thomas as a wide receiver 2. So let's get it. Rashad Jennings was limited in Wednesday's practice. We still don't know for sure whether or not he will be ready to play. Let's see. It seems more okay. So we're looking at this. Seems more certain that he's to play after a week of rest, having missed 2 games. Going in, they're going to be going up against the Ravens run defense, who's actually been able to stop people up pretty easily, pretty well. So Jennings isn't, Jennings may be healthy, but he may not be the best running back to use for your lineups this week. Eddie Lacy, ESPN's Rob Domofsky reports Eddie Lacy is more likely to play than James Starks. So a lot of people went out and got James Starks as soon as they heard that Eddie Lacy's ankle was bumming him up. Looks like James Starks is now dealing with a knee issue that he's not even likely to play at this point. So I think you're pretty set with going with Eddie Lacy, which could mean that guys like Randall Cobb could be getting more rushes. With I don't know if you watched the Green Bay game this last week where they were kept putting Randall Cobb in at tailback and putting a whole bunch of different people kind of back there. So I think that Eddie Lacy should be able to have an okay game. They are going up against the Dallas Cowboys, but it's in Green Bay, so I think that they should be able to run a little bit on Dallas being a home game. T.Y. Hilton didn't practice Wednesday, but I think that's more of a maintenance day. He has been lighting up defenses. I'm actually personally a little bit surprised that he's been able to do as well he has with Dante Moncrief out. Not that I'm not a Hilton believer. For the most part, I've always thought that he was a little bit smaller, wouldn't necessarily be able to handle going up against some of the bigger DBs that are in the league. But he, so far has been able to handle himself, and I think the one thing that's really going in his favor is the fact that since Philip Dorsett has not stepped up, he's kind of had to, so he has just been a target monster. He's had 10-plus targets in every single game so far this year. So T.Y. Hilton is definitely someone to watch and, plug into your DFS lineups, and if you've got him, he's a must-start. So interesting bit of news. Ladarius Green plans to return against the Patriots in Week 7. With his health issues that he has had, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. With his ankle as well as the migraines and everything that he was having from his concussions. I think for now you just leave him on the waiver wire. I'm okay to pass up on that just because we don't know how he's had problems staying healthy even when he was in a part-time role in San Diego. So I'd leave him for now. Latavius Murray did not practice on Wednesday. So, he's dealing with a turf toe issue. Those tend to linger for a while. So for right now, if you have Latavius Murray, I would, as of right now, expect he's not going to play. So if you have, Jalen Richard or DeAndre Washington. Maybe put them in a flex role. They've been splitting carries all the time. They're at home against Kansas City. So for now, I think, it's kind of a coin flip on which of those two is gonna be the more productive. Jalen Richard was the more productive on this last week, but previous to this, it had been DeAndre Washington. So for now, I think it's kind of a coin flip. It's on who's the better running back to own. If you can go a different direction, go ahead. And two more things here. Seahawks coach Pete Carroll says he expects Tyler Lockett to have a bigger role against the Falcons in Week 6. It looks like that Tyler Lockett may actually be healthy for play since getting injured in the second game of the season against the Rams. Tyler Lockett's been a bit of an enigma, tongue twister. The first few weeks, a lot of people dropped him. It looks like now he's actually healthy. And if you look in the very first game of the season against Miami, he got targeted a bunch. First half, I think he had 6 or 7 targets. He had a couple drops. I think it was just nerves, with how involved he was going to be in the offense at the beginning of the season. So, I think Tyler Lockett would be a good flyer play to put into your DFS lineups. I want to say in Yahoo, he's only like $15. So I think he would be a good flyer play. And then one last thing to mention, Dion Lewis has been cited in the locker room in New England, walking around, not limping. He's got no brace on his knee. Could start practicing as early as next week. Looking like he may be able to come back around week 8, week 9. If you have the space right now if you've got deep benches, and have a solid enough lineup that you can afford to plug up a spot on your bench with Dion Lewis, go ahead, get him now, especially in PPR leagues. If you don't, kind of maybe sit back one more week, and then next week, maybe try to jump on that and see if you can hold on to him. Put him on your bench and kind of stash and wait to see how he recovers. So that's it for the news and notes. I want to go over a couple things, couple sponsor partnership deals that we've got going on. Start off with Yahoo Daily. Yahoo Daily is the skulking fantasy football DFS platform of choice. They're the industry leader in fair play for DFS platforms. They make it easier for the little guy like you and me to be able to compete in their daily fantasy contests with some major aspects in their fair play rules. They limit all their entries to a maximum of 10 per user per contest. So, unlike the big DraftKings and FanDuel sites where, users can put in 100 lineups in a major contest, at Yahoo, you can only put in 10 lineups per contest. And they also have a provision that you can only put in 1% of total entries in a contest. So if there's only 100 entries allowed in a contest, you can only have 1. So I think that, it really helps out, again, the guys like you and me to be able to play and have a better chance at competing and winning a little bit of money. They identify veteran players with a badge, so you know who you're going up against in contests when you enter. So again, Yahoo is a great platform to use if you want to sign up for. Try to get involved on the Yahoo DFS platform. The guys at Voks DFS absolutely love Yahoo. They've been cleaning up at Yahoo just because it's still, again, they don't have the major veterans and pros entering in tons and tons of lineups in every contest. It's a lot more spread out. So the Voks DFS guys, like I said, they've been cleaning up. A lot of them swear by Yahoo. So we've got a special deal going on. If you get onto skullkingfootball.com/Yahoo Daily, we've got some links to use to sign up for a Yahoo Daily Fantasy account, and we've got a special promo. If you get on there, sign up for a Yahoo Daily account, you can be eligible to get a free premium membership at skullkingfootball.com. So if you want to know more details, get on to skullkingfootball.com/Yahoo Daily to find out more about that. The other one, the other little sponsor slash partnership thing that we want to get to is NFLshop.com. NFLshop.com is the official online store of the National Football League. They offer the biggest selection of officially licensed NFL apparel merchandise online. Doesn't matter if you want Nike jerseys, they've got game day collections, headwear. They've got, you get on there, they've got the salute to service headwear, the really cool looking camo hats. They have a huge selection of their Color Rush jerseys, hats, t-shirts, even the breast cancer awareness gear that, with the pink to support breast cancer awareness that the NFL is doing all through October. So if you want to get into that, get to skullkingfootball.com/NFL shop, all one word, skullkingfootball.com/NFL shop to click on there. And it looks like if you sign up through the link on our website, you can actually receive 10% off your first order. So be sure to hop on to, again, skullkingfootball.com/NFL shop to find out more details about that. All right. So we want to get into, before we get into our interview with Brad Holda that we recorded last night, let's go ahead and do a little bit of start sit. There's some interesting matchups coming up this week. And we, because we want to save a lot of time for the interview with Brad, let's go ahead. We're going to do some start sit advice based on some interesting matchups and the rankings that we have on here on Skull King, the premium rankings on skullkingfootball.com. Starting at QB, one of the start sit that we've got, Hoyer versus Stafford. Hoyer's a big DFS play right now, simply because he's been absolutely lights out throwing the ball the last few weeks. They've got a bit of a, I wouldn't say a cupcake matchup against Jacksonville, as Jacksonville's defense has been stepping it up a little bit. But Hoyer's been on fire, throwing the ball around 300 yards the last few weeks, in each of the last few weeks, and a couple TDs against Matthew Stafford, who's kind of been up and down. They do have the Rams, but they're at home. The Rams defense has been struggling a little bit. They have struggled against Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills. So in terms of fantasy, if you had to choose between the two, honestly, I think it's more of a, if you've got Marvin Jones and Stafford, I think you're in good shape there, simply because Jones is his main target. I think I like Hoyer at home against Jacksonville a little bit better than Stafford. Again, Stafford's kind of been back and forth. The one thing about Hoyer is we're not for sure that Hoyer's going to be starting. We're pretty sure Hoyer's going to be starting. John Fox has not been very clear on who's actually going to have the starting quarterback job once Jay Cutler is fully healthy. But I think for now, if Hoyer's starting, I would probably go with him over Stafford at QB. A couple running back position things, start sit. This one I thought was interesting. A couple of former teammates, Isaiah Crowell or Terrence West. Crowell in Cleveland. Let's go to the schedule. Cleveland's going up against Tennessee. Tennessee's been a bit tough against the run. I don't think that Cleveland's defense is terrible. And, Tennessee probably won't be able to put up the same amount of points against Cleveland that New England did with Tom Brady. But even with tough game script, Hugh Jackman has really committed to the run with Isaiah Crowell. And so I think Crowell could still have a decent game. This last week, I believe, was the first week he didn't have 60 yards on the ground. So he's actually, going into this last week, he was like second or third in terms of rushing yards in the league. So We've got him against Terrence West in Baltimore. God, who is Baltimore going up against? I want to say Baltimore is on the road against the New York Giants. See, they've got a tough matchup as well. New York's been able to stop up the run. They haven't been able to stop the pass very well. So, I mean, if I had to choose between the two, I mean, West has really been running the heck out of the ball, and it'll be interesting to see because of the question marks in the offensive coordinator with Baltimore, getting rid of Mark Trestman and going with Marty Morningwig. I think I'd still probably go with Crowell. Again, Tennessee has been tough. I think the game script probably still goes a little bit more in Crowell's favor. Or actually, no, because even with the game script probably being more in West's favor, I'd still go with Crowell just because he's been with how much they want to commit to the run. Hugh Jackman doesn't really care if they're not going to win. He wants to commit to the run and get that going. So I think I'd go with Crowell this week. And then another interesting matchup. Melvin Gordon or Theo Riddick. In PPR, Gordon I think he's leading the league in touchdowns with 7. He's somehow managing to find a way into the end zone every week. The San Diego offense, once Woodhead went down with his ACL injury, Gordon has been heavily involved in the offense, and I don't think that's going to stop. Like I said earlier, they're going up against Denver at home. Denver's had some trouble stopping up the run, so Gordon could be in for a very good game. Theo Riddick has been on fire lately, especially in PPR leagues. Last week he had another couple of touchdowns. So Riddick, I think, is always a good play in PPR. And so with Gordon still having a somewhat semi-difficult matchup against Denver, and Denver's going to look to try to show that last week was a little bit of a fluke, getting kind of smashed by Atlanta. I think they're really going to want to step up and stop Gordon. I mean, for me, I think it could go either way. I think for now you'd probably still go with Gordon, despite the matchup against Denver. We're going to go with, just for the sake of time, we're going to go with one wide receiver pairing, Quincy Enunwa or Terrell Pryor. Again, Pryor is the only receiving target that they've got in Cleveland other than Gary Barnidge, but who's been getting more looks over the last few weeks. But Pryor, just because of everything that Pryor can do, running the ball, doing the wildcat, and actually being able to throw the ball, being a former quarterback. Quincy Enunwa gets elevated because of Eric Decker now going to IR. Can Enunwa step it up? The opportunity will be there for him. Playing opposite of Brandon Marshall to get the targets, especially because the Jets defense is so just unable to stop the pass right now. I think that they're going to have to throw the ball around. So I can see Enunwa having a good week this week, even against the Arizona Cardinals again, because I think the defense will be unable to stop the Cardinals. And so on the Monday night game, so I can see Enunwa having a good game this week. I'd still probably go Pryor though, just again because of how many different ways Pryor can get the ball and be involved. Going to tight end, Gary Barnidge or Charles Clay. Charles Clay has actually had putting together a bit of a decent last couple of weeks, especially because Sammy Watkins is now out. They're wanting to get Charles Clay more involved in the passing game. Gary Barnidge has been, like I said, moving up. I want to say his targets have gone up every week. I want to say 6, 7, and 8 the last 3 weeks. So because of, let's see, who are the Bills playing? The Bills are playing. They're playing at home against San Francisco. I'd probably go Charles Clay still over Gary Barnidge. I almost want to say that's kind of a coin flip because I think Gary Barnes is due. He still doesn't have a touchdown yet this year. I know it doesn't help that Cody Kessler is the quarterback, so that can make things a little bit difficult on Barnage. But I think that matchup-wise, Charles Clay may actually be the better option this week. And then last but not least, let's go with the DST. Being a Seahawks fan here, we're going to go with the Seahawks or the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Seahawks let's be honest, they have a tough matchup. They're going up against the number one offense in the league in Atlanta. It will be at Seattle. And I want to say that I actually read that Seattle's or that Atlanta's the team, the Falcons actually stayed on the West Coast all week in order to since they had their game last week in Denver, they stayed on the West Coast in order to not have to fly back and forth to the west side of the states twice in a matter of 7 or 8 days. So they've actually stayed on the West Coast, so I think they won't be suffering quite as much from jet lag in order to go up against Seahawks. Seahawks have a great defense. I want to say that right now they're actually leading the league in yards per game defensively. They have the ability to stop up the run. Their pass defense has been playing pretty well. So the other way that we'd be going with this is with the Steelers. They're going up against Miami in Miami. Miami or with the Miami Dolphins, they've got Arian Foster going this week. It looks like he's going to be healthy enough to play, but honestly, their offense is a bit of a cluster, and so really, I think the only it's always a question: can Arian Foster actually stay healthy for a full game? I think for now, the safe bet in that game, I think the Steelers are gonna roll against Miami. And now I know that the splits between in Pittsburgh and away from Pittsburgh for Ben Roethlisberger are not great. I want to say that he scores. I heard it. I want to say I actually heard this from the Fantasy Footballers podcast. Excellent podcast, by the way. Another great resource to listen to if you don't listen to them already. That they actually said that the splits between home and away for Ben Roethlisberger, he actually scores 12 points more at home than he does on the road. So while that could be, that could come up again this week, especially with Sammy Coates spotted with a big cast on his arm after this last big game that he had. That could make things a little bit difficult. I still think, I hate to say it, but I'd probably rather have the Pittsburgh Steelers against a terrible Miami offense than I would the Seattle Seahawks going up against the number one offense in the league. Even though it is at home, Atlanta has so many more ways to attack Seattle than Miami does against Pittsburgh. So I'd probably go with, just in terms of fantasy points wise, probably go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So. All right. Why don't we go ahead, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and play you the interview that I did with Brad Holda from Voks DFS Firelines, and then we'll close out afterwards. All right. So as we get into the DFS portion of this podcast, I wanted to make a very special announcement that as part of this podcast, we get into this DFS section. We actually have a special guest with us tonight, or this morning, whenever you happen to actually be able to listen to this podcast. We have the owner of Voks DFS and Voks DFS Firelines on with us, Mr. Brad Holda. Why don't you go ahead and say hi?
Hello, everybody. How are you doing on this evening / morning, what have you?
/ afternoon, whenever it is that you happen to be listening to this. We wanted to have a chance to bring Brad on as he has been helping out Skull King in many ways with plugging us on his website, providing a lineup each week, a daily lineup each week for us, and he actually has me helping him out on Voks, providing some season long advice, as well as going and throwing up some lineups to help out some of his subscribers. So as we get into this, I just kind of want to start by asking Brad, as you've kind of gotten into Voks, when did you actually start Voks DFS Firelines?
Well, it kind of started off, as like a fun thing between a few friends, where I found a few people on the DFS Facebook groups, to where they wanted to pay me some money for some basic advice and some help with lineups. And a small sample size of my success soon spiraled, kind of almost seemingly out of control over the months, and we've grown up and we got popular, and we become one of the industry leaders in providing consulting and competitive lineups for all different types of folks from different strokes.
All right. So what services specifically do you guys provide at Voks DFS?
Well, we're not your everyday provider in a sense that we are so much more than that. We hate to be put in that same category. There's a lot of negative stigma attached to your typical providers based upon the facts that a lot of them, aren't very nice to their customers, and a lot of them are just in it for the money and are in it for a quick cash scam grab. A lot of people rip people off and gives us, bad names. So we try to push the boundaries of what it means essentially to be a provider and what it means to help someone in the DFS community. We are first and foremost a family business. I mean, my mom helps me out. She's a CFO. My dad helps out. My brother helps out. Whole family's involved. And, we're old school. We treat the members like family. We call ourselves the Fire Fam. We're pretty old school, and we still think the customer is king. And as you've experienced, we all look out for each other, and we have the best interests of our subscribers in the forefront at all times. And we try to help them out as best we can, whatever that entails, whether it's coaching, personal fantasy coaching, or just help consulting and making lineups, or just, help finding the right research site, or just giving them basic analytics to formulate and construct their own cash and GPP lineups. We pay attention to their very unique needs, and we're not just, your average plug and play provider, if you will. We're also different because, we look at each member, like I said, we see their individual needs, and some are fairly confident and don't get too involved in the chats or need much help, and others, take full use of our services. We're on the chats, pretty frequently, taking up our time, which they should, and, getting all the help they need to cash and make successful lines. Some are totally new, and we give them all the attention they need and all the attention they want. We have staff members available from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time every day. If you have a question, it gets answered like boom, just like that. We're there. You've seen all this. You're in Slack.
Yeah, I've been on there a bunch. Been able to actually contribute a little bit here and there, as well as actually have a couple of my own channels on there where I can help provide some season long and as well as a little bit of DFS help on there. What sports do you guys cover? Because this is the great thing. You have such a great team. How many different sports do you guys provide for? Because you're not just NFL like you've been helping out with skulking. What all sports do you guys cover?
We are full service. We don't tier it out. We do every single sport on FanDuel and DraftKings. You essentially can wager money on, all the way from Big Homie Terrence crushes esports. We got Big Matt slaying MMA. We got a whole team of people who do just different slates for NFL. I mean, we got a team of 10 people on staff. Me and Matt do MLB. We got Nate Thigpen. He's a GPP crusher. We just established our new hockey team that we launched today. I'm really happy and proud of those guys. It looks like first night their DraftKings and FanDuel lines are cashing with great success. And that they're really proud of their work, and these guys really work hard for me. And look out for the subs. And we're going to be we do soccer. We have Justin who does soccer. He crushes it at Libby. We got a golf guy, Alan. He makes killer cheat sheets for the boys. We got a Cashman Kush. He's one of the most favorite providers. His cash record is pretty exorbitant, as he'll go 12, 15 days just cashing everything. And I'm trying to think. I mean, we're starting up NBA. I'm bringing on an old buddy that used to work with me last year when we first started Firelines, Jeremy Benz. I'm bringing him back to help out FanDuel. We've got Jordan Cook, who helps with NFL. We got Robbie Hale, who helps with data analytics and writing some premium content for new members and stuff, and just overall helps. We got Pam, the leading lady, our customer service rep. Couldn't do anything without her.
Seriously, she is. Pam is awesome. If you guys, for all of our listeners, if you guys actually get involved with Voks DFS, Pam, she has all the answers for you. She is, really, seriously, any question you have, Pam's able to answer it and take care of whatever you need. So, really, the Voks does have a great team. So,
and then I can't forget to mention my mom. She does all the behind the scenes, billing and some of the hard work. And some of the hard work I don't necessarily feel like doing, but it has to be done.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. All right, how many subscribers do you guys have as of right now?
I want to say around 80,
Nice.
85.
So you guys are just now kind of you're starting to close down MLB. I mean, you guys still do some playoff lines. But
yeah,
MLB
I think that ends tomorrow. I think the last MLB game is tomorrow, and I'm finally glad it's over. It's been a long season, and the extreme variance involved in MLB will just drive you crazy after a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've honestly, I mean, I'm huge into doing like season-long fantasy. I did season-long fantasy for baseball once. I made it about halfway through the season, and it is just, I mean, baseball is just such a grind. I mean, that was the sport I played in high school and everything. I loved playing it. But when it came down to like getting involved with fantasy and baseball, it is such a grind to be able to, and it's so nice with, like, say with football, you have the weekend. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can do all your research for the weekend, where with baseball, you've got games every stinking day that you're
like full 15 game bangers.
Yeah.
Where you got to like literally do research on every pitcher and crunch the numbers, the WOBAs, the ISOs, the differentials, the K predictors. There's just so much that goes into analysis, and it drains you after. Well, there's so many times throughout the season I just said, man, I do not want to play today. But I'm sure that there's like 60 or 7 people depending on me, so I'm just going to have to push through. And I don't ever remember it being like that with NBA for me. NBA was always my favorite DFS sport.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's start talking some football. So, what with Skull King, we are our main platform that we advertise for and work with is Yahoo, and so the main slate that we're going to kind of be throwing out lines for is the big 175K baller tourney, which is it has all the Sunday games plus the Monday night games. So they leave out the Thursday game on this. So for that 175K, we want to look at some players. We're going to look at a couple players from each position that we think you really want to have in your lineups for this week. So, Brad, why don't we go ahead and start with the quarterbacks? Why don't you go ahead and maybe pick 2 quarterbacks that you're really loving for this big slate?
All right, let me pull up my notes real quick. I mean, despite his price, I'm really liking Angry Brady. I mean, he's just so efficient through the air. Good old naked Brady, just throwing it to everybody, not even relying on a running back.
I know.
I mean, his price is so expensive. It's not really so much viable to see him in cash when you got a guy like Hoyer who has thrown for 300 plus yards and 2 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. That has a relatively similar floor. I mean, not as nearly as high as upside, but when you're trying to save cap and a site, especially like Yahoo, where the pricing is very stringent, you're not going to necessarily want to plug in Brady unless, you did some extreme value mining and found some $10 guys from the bargain rack, which I know you're very good at.
I do what I can.
Looked on that primetime Yahoo with like Bobby Rainey or Blaine Rainey or something.
Bobby Rainey and Jaquiz Rogers did pretty well for me this last week. Both $10 guys for Yahoo on the primetime slate. So okay, so Brady, he's $39. So yeah, he's a bit of a price. Is there maybe one more quarterback that you'd really love to have in your lineups?
Like I said, I like Cam Newton again because his game is. I mean, they're going up against the hapless Saints in the Superdome, and the narrative is that those last 3 starts in the Superdome, he's absolutely crushed it. I mean, he is high priced, but he is playing on the team with the highest projected team totals on the slate, and that can't be ignored. Even though he's been kind of a bust weekly, I can pull on another value quarterback, but as far as picking the best point per dollar option, I feel would be Cam Newton. I'd kind of
have to agree with you there. I mean, at $40, yeah, he's going to be spendy, but playing against the non-existent Saints defense, and then even if you spend $1 more, you get Drew Brees, who always kills it in the Superdome, is going up against the all rookie backfield of the Carolina Panthers. So I mean, this is going to be a high scoring game. One of the I did my Q&A today in Slack for Voks, and one of the questions was, who is what's the quarterback wide receiver stack that I like the best for this week? And for me, it was, I don't know if you saw it in there. It was Drew Brees and Willie Snead. And Drew Brees, because he's $41, so he's the most expensive quarterback right now on there. However, he always kills it in New Orleans, playing against Carolina. And the reason I chose Willie Snead, I could have gone with Brandon Cooks. However, if you're wanting to save a little bit, because let's see, what's Cooks at? Cooks is $28, but if you save a little bit more, Snead is running $23. So that saves you $5 in cap room. And Snead has been, when he's been healthy, has been tearing it up as well. So, I mean, I think that would be a great stack to use.
And Russell would kill me for saying this. He's a diehard, one of our
diehard Panther fan.
Yeah, he would kill me for saying this. But how bad has the Panthers' pass defense been?
It's been pretty wretched. Okay, so for me, I mean, we kind of mentioned Brian Hoyer. He's only $29, and he's going up against Jacksonville. So, and he's been putting up points. And my only issue with Hoyer is, do we know for sure that Cutler is back yet? Because once he is healthy, John Fox has not been very clear about who they're actually going to continue have being the quarterback once Cutler's healthy. So as long as Hoyer is healthy, I'm fine for him to be a bit of a value at $29 going up against the Jacksonville defense in Chicago.
It's a pure price exploitation play. I mean, I rostered him in my FanDuel Thursday and Monday slate that scored like 160, and for like $6K he scored like 24 points and hit like 4 times value. That's like, I mean, all you want from a $6K quarterback is like 15 to 17 points, man. You want, he's done a decent job.
And then the other value quarterback that I've got on here is Marcus Mariota, because they're at home as well, going up against Cleveland's non-existent defense.
Right.
And so, I think a great stack if you're going to get Mariota would be to go ahead and pay a little bit more on your tight end for Delaney Walker, who he just peppers with targets. Yeah,
I was going to say Delaney Walker is one of the only true tight ends that has really 2 touchdown, 100-yard upside right now in the NFL.
All right, so let's go ahead and go into running backs. Let's pick, since we want to get through this a little bit quick. Let's go ahead and let's pick 2 running backs. Go ahead and pick a high-end running back and maybe a value running back.
Okay, and we're doing this from Yahoo.
We're looking at Yahoo. So,
all right, let me just pull up Yahoo models.
And yes, that is one thing about Vox is Brad has gone through and he's got models for every platform, every sport. He's messing with models and stats and all that sort of stuff to kind of help provide you with the best plays for the week. So
the way the narrative breaks down, I'm kind of on Ryan Matthews because he's more of an in between the tackles guy, and something I was reading and researching. Let me pull it up real quick. I'll just give you this guy because I'm really on him right now. Is that sorry, I'm having a hard time finding it.
not a problem. It's okay. I always feel unprepared, even if I've got all of my tabs up. I always seem to keep clicking on the wrong tab as I'm going through this and trying to get all my stuff going.
I guess I got Matthews actually shapes up as a sharp play this week as a guy who has the best running back matchup on the weekend, as who is a primary between the tackles runner. If the Eagles are able to get closer to the 72, 77 plays they ran the first 2 weeks as opposed to 61, 65 snaps they had the last 2 weeks, or if the Eagles are able to play with the lead for a solid chunk of the second half, Matthews becomes valuable. I think the Eagles can get off some extra plays with the Redskins being a pass-heavy team and being likely to have some quickly stalled drives against this defense. And I think they can hold the lead for a chunk of the second half, which would make Matthews, again, valuable. But realize that Sproles will eat into Matthews' snaps for as long as this game remains competitive. A note on this, the two teams against which the Eagles ran extra plays, the Browns and Bears, both ranked 16th or lower in total offensive DVOA, the two teams against which the Eagles ran fewer plays. The Steelers and Lions both ranked 9th or higher in total offensive DVOA. And so just from research and reading different articles and stuff, I came across that, and I found that, because he'll be, especially for tournaments, he'll be overwhelmingly overlooked because of his two lackluster performances the last couple of weeks.
Well, and he even had he had the 1 week where he was injured, where I think he got in 2 carries and they pulled him and put in Wendell Smallwood. So yeah, I can see that with Washington. Let's see, I've got it right here. Washington defense gives up, where's it, the rush yards per game. I mean, they're absolutely wretched when it comes to. They give up 130 rush yards a game. They're the third worst in terms of giving up rush yards.
32nd in DVOA and 32nd yards allowed per carry.
Yeah, they're absolutely horrible. So I mean, last week I was on Terrence West because he was playing. He was running against Washington, and I think he put up 95 rush yards against them. So I can totally see Matthews. Kind of my higher end play would probably be honestly Mark Ingram at $30 going up against Carolina again. That should be a high scoring game. Neither team can play defense, and with the way that Tampa Bay was able to get Jaquiz Rodgers to run through the Carolina defense, honestly, Mark Ingram should tear them apart. Plus, he catches the ball. Plus, he catches the ball out of the backfield very well. I think he's on pace for another 50 catch season. And last year he got 50 catches and missed 4 games. So I'm all over Mark Ingram for this week at $30. He's a little bit higher spender, but I think if you match him with maybe a value play later and save a little bit, maybe try to save a little bit of your dollars, since it is half point PPR. Try to save a little bit of your dollars for some higher end wide receivers. If you're going to spend a little bit on running back, I think Ingram would be a great way to go. And okay, go ahead and give us a value running back that you really like.
Value running back. See who's popping off. And value is we're thinking $10, $11.
Well, you honestly, under 20. Go under 20, because if you think of when you put together your lineup, average player value, if you max out your budget, it's $22 per player.
Right.
Is your average budget. So
I might. I don't. I mean, this really all depends on how if Jonathan Stewart comes back this week or not, and whether Cameron Artis-Payne will get the start because he's only $15 and he did really good last week, or even Theo Riddick, even with DeAndre Washington coming back, he still we'll see about 10 to 11 carries and will be the preeminent back catcher, and he will get yards, and especially on a king like DraftKings, it's full PPR. He will definitely eat on that side.
Yeah.
He'll definitely get his opportunities, and at $15 or $18 under 20. I mean, we've seen his upside. I think he's.
Yeah, I've got Theoretic in a couple of my. I play full point PPR in all my season long, and I've got Theoretic in I want to say 2 or 3 leagues. So yeah, he would definitely be a great pick. I've got a couple of values. If you look at the list, just below Theoretic is Giovanni Bernard at $18. The only thing I don't like about Gio this week is the fact that they're in New England, which means they may be throwing the ball a lot, which helps out Gio, just because they may get behind with Brady throwing the crap out of the ball.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, I mean, if you don't like the matchup that Gio has, you can always go. I mean, we can go really, really cheap here. Go James White. Once Brady came back, James White was scoring points again.
Definitely a correlation there.
Yeah, because and let's remember he is Dion Lewis right now because Dion Lewis is still on IR. James White, when Brady is in, they practically abandon the running game unless they know that team is absolutely horrible against the run.
They're just the perfect team at exploiting weaknesses.
Correct. Bill Belichick is a genius at doing this. So if he's going up against, say, Indianapolis Colts, he'll run the crap out of the ball. Or if he's going up against the Washington Redskins, he will run the crap out of the ball. He'll just give it to LeGarrette Blount right up the middle 40 times if he has to, and Blount will run for 200-plus yards and 3 TDs.
This week's objective is to take out A.J. Green.
Yeah. So I think with James White, I think that he will be again a pass catcher. I can see 5 or 6 catches from him, and then even in a half-point PPR, that's advantageous to have the guy that's going to get that. I can see him. His one downside is that he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but I think that he would be a very advantageous play at home in New England for only $15. And then the last one is that I had real quick was Bilal Powell. I still don't understand. Bilal Powell is only $12 on Yahoo. Exploit that value. At only $12 on Yahoo, are you serious? He is now outperforming Matt Forte, who at this point is still in the $25 range. Was Forte
rosters?
Yeah. So I mean, really get on Bilal Powell. He's had 6 catches, not 6 targets, 6 catches in each of the last 3 games. Hasn't scored any touchdowns, but has gotten the yards. He's getting more touches. So Bilal Powell, I think, is definitely a way to go. And so let's go ahead and let's hit 2 wide receivers. And he doesn't need to be value. Whatever 2 wide receivers you think are absolutely in for huge games this week.
I'm gonna start off with value. I think this is a little bit of a contrarian pick. You might not agree with me, but I've done some
contrarian picks.
Brandon LaFell, because New England is going to do absolute best to take away A.J. Green, and I believe LaFell had 11 targets last week.
Yeah, I think that's how many he had. I think it was 11.
And I don't know if it happened the week before. It could be a little fluky. I guess I'm willing to find out for $10. I just think that the opportunities, the targets will be there, especially if they're, doubling up on A.J. Green, which I feel they will. But, I mean, increased opportunity and market share, 2 of the biggest predictors of success. And so I'm ready to see if that trend pans out. Like I said, it could be fluky last week, but I'm willing to put him in a line and find out for $10. A guy who has the potential, the upside of 11 targets for $10.
It's kind of hard to pass up. It's kind of hard. I mean, let's be honest, especially with the matchup against New England, where they're going to have to throw the ball a lot in order to stay in the game. Brandon at $10, Brandon LaFell is a good contrarian pick. I'd have to look at, for me, in terms of value, a couple of the guys that I'm really looking at. Tyler Lockett at home for Seattle. This isn't a homer pick. This is everyone in Seattle is saying that Tyler Lockett is finally healthy. He's finally healthy after getting injured in that Rams game. His knee is back to 100%, and that they are looking to get him the ball in as many different ways as they can. The Atlanta defense is god awful. The reason that they are 4-1, are they 5-0?
I think it's 4-1.
4-1. The reason that they're that is because they can outscore anyone. And so it's not because their defense is stopping people.
Julio.
If we look at total defense yards per game, Atlanta is number 26. They're giving up 388 yards per game, 290 pass yards, 100 rush yards per game. They're giving up 28 points, and they're still 4-1. So I can see Seattle using Lockett to
He's an explosive playmaker, man. Just get him the ball.
Yeah, seriously,
just get him the ball and let him do something with it. He's one of those guys you want to watch on Sunday because he makes it exciting.
Yes, he does.
Let him get the ball and let him do something with his feet. That's what I say.
Yeah, and then let's go ahead and if you've got one more wide receiver, if you've got if there's maybe a higher end guy that you really like. Again, if you go back to the New Orleans and Carolina game, it's hard to pass up Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna stick on the contrarian train, and I'm looking at. Just because Indiana's pass defense and defense is just atrocious as a whole, I think DeAndre Hopkins has a chance to get back on track this week.
Yeah, I kind of like that. What he wasn't terrible last week. I think he finally got his first touchdown of the season. He's actually a bit of a value play at 28.
I know, 20. That's what stood out to me too. Because I like to find the happy middle. High upside guys.
Yeah.
At lower price points. I don't always necessarily want to roster Le'Veon Bell, who costs $38 on Yahoo, but a lot of times I will just because.
Yeah.
Like guaranteed points.
Well, I think so he scored his third touchdown because he had one in week 1, one in week 2. What's kind of hurt him has been the matchups. Week 3 he had 8 targets, but they were playing against New England, and Brock Osweiler didn't have the time to do anything. Their tight end, I want to say, had 8 or 9 catches, simply because that was all the time that he had. He couldn't even get a dump off over to Lamar Miller in that game against New England. But at Minnesota, 9 targets. So he has 8, 11, 8, 6 against Tennessee, 6 targets against Tennessee, and they actually managed to win that game. And then 9 targets, 5 receptions, and a TD in Minnesota. I can see against Indianapolis it being a sort of a rivalry game, being in division. I can see DeAndre Hopkins having a good game in this one.
I think he could possibly break out and have a elite DFS performance. All the correct variables are in play. I see. Whether it will transpire into DFS goodness, we will definitely see. But he's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, I think the other one for me, it's a little bit higher out there. Jarvis Landry. I love Jarvis Landry in any PPR lineup you can get him in, and even in half-point PPR. They're going up against Pittsburgh. The run game has been all over the place. Now it looks like Arian Foster is actually going to be healthy for this game, so he's a possible good pick. it's possible that he could actually solidify that run game. But if he gets injured at all and has to sit out, that offense is going to go through Jarvis Landry because it's the only guy that Tannehill trusts to be able to get the ball to.
Bills has gotten like 2 targets, and
I mean, look at this. He's had 400 receiving yards so far, but last week was the first week that he had less than 10 targets. He had 3 targets, 3 receptions, 28 yards. But that was going up against Tennessee. Tennessee is putting together a nice defense, very understated.
Make note of that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, against Seattle, 10 targets, 7 receptions. Against New England, 13 targets, 10 receptions. Against Cleveland, 12 targets, 7 receptions. Against Cincinnati, 10 targets, 7 receptions. So, I mean, it was the first week he had less than 7 receptions, too. So, I think, I take that game against Tennessee as a little bit of an outlier. And I think at home against Pittsburgh in a game where they're probably going to have to throw the ball in order to stay in it.
Yeah.
I think that Jarvis Landry would be a good pick.
He's definitely Tannehill's safety blanket.
Yes, he is. All right, and let's go ahead and let's finish up. Let's pick one tight end that you really want this week.
I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Delaney Sims, and if you can fit him in.
You mean Delaney Walker?
Yeah, Delaney. I was looking at Deion Sims up here. A little tired, but I'll get through it.
Well, we've got a 3-hour difference now. I record this at 9 o'clock, and so it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning for you. So you're excused.
And it's also to be noted that Gary Barnage's targets have steadily been increasing. I mean, he doesn't play in a great offensive system, but at his price point, with his increased market share over the last few weeks, he could be in for, maybe something juicy.
His targets have increased every week, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8 every week, moving on up through there. So, and another thing about Barnage is he has yet to score a touchdown. He's, you got to think he's due.
Yeah, he's due.
At $15, that's not a bad play. So
and some of these guys, when they don't score touchdowns, they'll go off and get them in 2s and 3s.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I think I'd go back to what I was talking about in the beginning when we were talking about Mariota. I love Delaney Walker. They're at home. They're going up against a hapless Cleveland defense. So,
yeah, that can't be refuted at all.
Yeah, so I mean, at $23, I'm willing to spend a little bit more, especially if I get the value from Hoyer at $28 for my lineup. I think that, or for Mariota. Having the Mariota Walker connection to kind of stack my lineup a little bit would really help. So,
yeah, I'm gonna run that too. Thanks for the good ideas.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it. Well, I'd love to, thank you again, Brad, for hopping on here. We may make this a weekly thing. We'll kind of see. Again, kind of depends on how late we get started. With me having to get the girls down before we get started, and you being 3 hours away and being a bit later for you, but.
Work, it just depends on how much coffee I want to drink.
That too. All right. So again, thank you, Brad, for coming on. Yep. And one more time, just your website is
VoksDFS.com.
And so that's how you can hop onto VoksDFS.com. You can get a hold of Brad or whoever's in charge of bringing everyone in. I don't know if that's Pam or if they're.
You can message us on Twitter. At Voks DFS Firelines, give us a follow, and send us a message, and we can give you some information on, what it's like here.
All righty. All right. Again, thanks, Brad, and we'll talk to you again hopefully next week.
All right. Look forward to seeing the rest of your podcast in the morning, bud.
All right. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this show. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation that I had with Brad Holda of Voks DFS. Like we said in that little interview, we're hoping to maybe try to make this a weekly thing. So again, good luck to everyone out there on their lineups and everything for this weekend on DFS. Good luck with your matchups this week in your season-long leagues, and we look forward to talking to you guys again this next week.